And all of this just is non-irrigated, so it's going to depend on the rainfall. Now, right now, you can look at that soil and see the fresh soil that he's turned over is a darker color, which indicates the moisture that's in it. And so we'll have moisture to plant with in the spring. And this is going to be cotton, so it would be probably early to mid-April before we plant this. But we'll have moisture still. And when you kind of get down to the basics of it, to start a seed growing, there's three things that you have to have, and you have to have moisture for one thing. You have to have adequate moisture in the soil. You have to have the right soil temperature, and then you have to have good contact between the seed and the soil. This is working really well, so I'm not concerned about having moisture to germinate the seed and get the crop started. It's just whether we're going to get any rain during the growing season or not to make the crop.
And what kind of amounts of rain are we talking about?
Well, really, it's more the timing of the rain than it is the amount. Now, you've got to have the right amount too, or got to have enough. And you can get too much, but there's probably, I'd say there's three critical stages for moisture and nutrients in a crop. Of course, you have to have moisture initially to germinate the seed and get it growing. And if you've got that moisture, well, usually that'll last long enough to get the crop started and growing. And you'll go through, and with any crop, you'll go through different phases. As the plant gets bigger, it goes into a different growth stage. As it just emerges from the seed and comes out of the ground, well, that's a seedling stage. And then from there, it goes into a vegetative stage, and that's when it starts getting its height and making leaves and that sort of thing. Then it'll go from there to the reproductive stage, which is when it starts blooming and pollinating and setting fruit and filling the fruit. And those are really the times, if you've got adequate moisture to get through that vegetative state, the next critical point is when it begins the reproductive stage, because the plant has a built-in brain that will tell it at that point in time what the moisture supply is, and it's going to determine, like on an ear of corn for instance, how many kernels of corn will be on that ear, how long the ear will be, and if there's adequate moisture at the beginning of that reproductive state, well, then you'll have a long ear of corn with lots of kernels on it. And if it's dry at that time, well, then you're going to have a short ear with not as many kernels on it. And it's kind of amazing how that works. Now, just because you have the moisture at that time and you make this big long ear of corn with lots of seeds on it, then it doesn't rain anymore. When it starts filling that fruit, well, then you'll have immature grains and poor pollination. It all has to kind of mesh and go together to get that maximum yield that you're looking for. And that's hard to do. Just like, I don't know if you're a football coach or a basketball coach, you sit down with your players and draw out the plays and explain how they're going to work. But, depending on how everything happens on the field or on the court, whether that play actually ends up working or not. Well, it's the same way in the field. You go into the year knowing what you need to do, as the producer can do to grow a crop, but you have no control over the elements, and so you're just kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature.